How you doing? Welcome. It is Monday night with Dean Kirk, resuming countdown on my fancy playlist of February the 13th, 2022 at number 20, getting into the top 20, which is equivalent to hot rotation as far as I'm concerned. And it's Hypotheticals by Lake Street Dive. It's from their 7th album called Obviously, and I got to go into the producer of this album in just a minute because this is kind of amazing. There's a lot of amazing talent that's just been poured into this record, at least into this record. I haven't heard the whole album, but the record really caught my fancy and put it on my Spotify playlist and then, of course, on my fancy playlist. Now, it's got a bright, shiny, confectionery melody to it. It's absolutely suited for adult radio, adult contemporary, or what they call adult top 40 radio, and it's just great for satellite radio to play in the background. It's just a catchy record. It's just a feel-good record. It's a song about somebody kind of fantasizing and planning out a relationship, planning out scenarios of how a relationship could possibly work. If plan A doesn't work, let's go to plan B. If plan B doesn't work, we'll go to plan C. Just you ought to be with me instead of being alone, but let's see how we can make this thing work. It's just a bright, cheery record. There's no doubt about it. It's kind of a fantasy in its own way. Hypotheticals, written by band member Bridget Kearney. Bridget Kearney, in 2005, she won the John Lennon Songwriting Contest. She's quite creative for a song that she wrote. And here's the title of it. I love the title of this song. Boy, it's pretty ingenious. Sometimes when I'm drunk and you're wearing my favorite shirt. Now, that sounds like a country title, doesn't it? But actually, that was in the jazz category that she won that contest, the prize. The prize. $1,000 and 1,000 CDs. They poured all that into the making of their debut CD. And she's quite talented. I mean, she learned how to play the piano when she was 5 years old. She learned how to play the double bass, those big giant guitars or whatever you call them, bass. She learned how to play those in the 4th grade. She played in school orchestras, jazz bands. She even had her own rock and roll band. As a matter of fact, for a while, she was not only in Lake Street Dive, she was in Joy Kills Sorrow. But by 2012, she left Joy Kills Sorrow so she could go full-time, all out on Lake Street Dive. Got a record deal with Signature Sound Recording, and that was in 2005. Record label that started in 1995. It's an independent record label that specializes in jazz. Well, not necessarily jazz, but folk music and American roots, and they got a deal with that. And they just toured like crazy. In 2013, 2014, they worked really hard. 300 gigs in that period span of 1 year, 300 gigs. I got down to 175 cities, 40 venues on a tour they did in 2014. They sold out 40 venues. Got a deal with None Such Records, a major record label. This was in 2015. And that label was owned by Warner Brothers. Now, I think it's in the early. I don't have the date on this, but they did a version on a street corner. They sang on the street corner, doing a version of the Jackson 5's "I Want You Back." Put it on YouTube. Got 6 million views. Pretty successful band that you might not have heard about. But this is pretty amazing record. It just stands out at you, really does. Rachel Price, the lead vocalist of Lake Street Dive, also a major talent. She became a vocalist. Her and her 2 sisters. I think she was 9 years old. She might have been even younger when she became a member of Voices of Baja. I think I pronounced that right. Baja Choir. She was a vocalist with her 2 sisters. By the time she was 12 years old, she was a soloist. And this Baja Choir, they toured all over the world. She toured all over the world singing when she was very young. They toured Central America, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, all over the world. Been all over the place. Put out her debut album. When she was 17 years old. And there was something else I wanted to mention about her, but I think I covered all the basics. So let's go to the producer. Let's talk about the guy who produced this album. Now, this is a very versatile person. You're not going to believe this because this is sort of a folksy song. It's sort of folk pop, folk pop, some jazz overtones thrown in for good measure. This album produced by a guy named Mike Eli. I think it's Mike Eli Sundo. Mike Eli Sundo, protege of Dr. Dre. Hip hop guy. He co-wrote, co-produced In the Club by 20 Cents. Remember that. Oh my goodness, think about this. This is 2022. At the end of this year, when we go to the late 2022, early 2023, it'll be 20 years since In the Club came out. Can you believe that? Well, if you're 40 years old, time really passes by really quick, so you probably understand. He co-produced, or at least co-wrote, Just Lose It by Eminem. Remember that? The real Slim Shady. Woo, boy, that's some summer memories there from 2000. He co-produced that. Now, he was a session musician on an album. It was called The Album by superstar rap act called The Firm. On this group, The Firm, that he was session musician on this album, it was Nas, remember Nas, Foxy Brown, AC, and Nature. But he's also did some heavy stuff too. He worked with a Finch Sevenfold. And when you get this at Finch Sevenfold, boy, you're getting heavy right there. You're getting some really kicking rock and roll. As a matter of fact, he's a fan of Megadeth, Metallica, Iron Maiden. That's some really heavy stuff, particularly back in the day. But then again, he co-wrote the song Casanova. One of the co-writers of Casanova, Cowboy Casanova by Carrie Underwood, which was a big country hit in 2009. So we're talking about a very versatile guy branching out, producing this record, producing this album, obviously in this record Hypotheticals by Lake Street Dive, and went to number 2 on the adult alternative airplay charts. No surprise there whatsoever. This is impeccably suited for adult top 40. Enough said. Number 20 on my fancy playlist, February 13th, 2022, Lake Street Dive with Hypotheticals.